stripped cover lit. I like it.
It sounds good to me. It really does.
Yeah.
Hey, we could do like book reviews and writing reviews.
Writing stuff.
And reviews.
Reviews of
we can review things.
Reviews of reviews.
That's pretty much it.
That'll work.
Yeah.
So, what should we do first?
We got to do the Dogs of Babel. It's my favorite book. It'll be great.
Dogs of Babel?
The Dogs of Babel, close enough.
Okay, well, sell it to me.
Well, it's a mystery novel. It was a bestseller at one point in time.
Okay.
Deals a lot with a man and his wife, and the wife kills herself, so he thinks, but the only witness is the dog. It's great. You'll like it. Okay. It'll be good for you.
Dogs of Babel. Okay.
All right. Dogs of Babel. Adrian, did you get a chance to read Dogs of Babel yet? Take that as a yes.
Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm not.
Dalton.
What?
Say it.
I'm Dalton Gentry.
It's a little bit better.
I try.
And we are here today with a book review of Dogs of Babel.
Babel.
Dogs of Babel. So, what made you make me read this horrible book?
This actually is one of my favorite books. And we are going to get that out now while I'm still healthy and alive, and we're going to roll with that. I was first introduced to this as a performance piece at Bradley University. It was actually a live performance of this from Paul's perspective, and I completely fell in love with it. And this is one of the first times I've actually gone out to find a book that I've seen a performance of just because I really wanted to read it.
You know this is melodrama.
No, you wanted to know why we read it, we're going to know how I read it. Okay, so that's how this all started. So I've been in love with this piece from before I read it. Let's start with that.
Okay, well, you realize that between being about dreams, ghosts, journals, and psychics, and the massive amount of references to my heart, this book may have been written during the course of a semester during geometry class.
I don't think we can make that argument. I mean, there's a little bit more to it.
That is my critical analysis here. Like if I were going to write a paper about that's what it would be. It was written during geometry class.
And so we're done.
Sophomore geometry class.
We've summed it up. We're done.
Leave.
I'm done. I'm out.
Done.
All right.
I'll find someone else to do this with.
Now I am absolutely willing to yield that a lot of my like for this book is emotional appeal. I loved this piece as a performance, so I went in reading it with that expectation, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure it does.
No?
No.
It's like, I can't even make a good reference to it.
Well, it's like saying I loved the book, so the movie was great. I loved the movie, so the book was great.
I think that's as close as it gets. You go to see the movie, you absolutely love the movie, so when you go to read the book, you have that expectation set. So you draw so much from that expectation.
Just an outside question, is there anything else that has happened for you with?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
You know, I saw Fight Club before I ever read the book.
Okay.
And I think that enhanced the experience. Because if I didn't have Brad Pitt and Edward Norton in my mind...
I love Edward Norton.
I don't know if the book would have been the same. Great book, I just don't know if it would have had... If the visuals... Oh, and who played Marla? Helena Bonham Carter.
There you go. I can never say
which, ironically, she has... If they make a movie of this, she has to play that part.
Play which part?
What's her face?
Lexi? No, I don't think so. I think...
Lexi's Helena Bonham Carter.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think she could, from an actor's perspective. She's a wonderful actor. I just see her a little too dark for Lexi. And no.
Too dark for a woman who killed herself while she was 3 months pregnant?
It's more romantic than that. It's not...
I don't know.
It's not the dark Marla character that you set it up to be.
It's not Marla, but it's Marla Light.
Marla Light?
Yeah.
Did you get like Marla Classic?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I dated Marla Classic.
Did you? I think we all have. That's the worst part. There's a subtlety to this piece that I like. And
subtlety?
There is a subtlety to it.
Okay, explain that.
With the relationship between Paul and Lexi, because you never actually get a living relationship between them, because she is dead at the beginning of the novel. Right. That is how the novel begins. So it is a man reminiscing about the love of his life. There's such a good, subtle, emotional appeal. I mean, it runs that line, if this makes any sense whatsoever.
No, it's tripe.
It's not tripe. It's wonderful. It's a damaged beauty, if you would.
Which makes it different than any other damaged beauty book ever. How?
I'm not saying it's completely different from any other, but that draws you in.
Okay, the one thing... Okay. I like reading.
Fair enough. I think we're both in that.
I like to condone the act of reading.
Okay.
I would not say that someone should not read this book. Maybe. The one thing I liked in this book was the central conceit that a man who is a professor at the university level is going to attempt to teach a dog how to talk.
Okay.
Okay, I like that.
Okay.
I think there's something there.
And I think I actually brought that up as a point in my notes here. It's a believable sci-fi, if that makes sense. It is far-stretched, it is a little ridiculous in concept, but it is believable. Especially for a man going through the grief process, that he might resort to something like this.
Okay. I don't know. I just liked the conceit.
Okay, we're going to keep it at that.
I don't know that it's believable. What maybe for a Paul type Paul? I can't even remember names from this novel.
Paul.
A Paul type character who is about as blah a character as anything you will find in F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Oh.
I mean, what's the point of this guy? What is the point of this guy?
He's grieving for the loss of his wife.
But even before the loss of his wife, the flashbacks that we get, he was not an actor in the piece. He acted a pawn.
I think it's not fair to say that Paul isn't a main player.
Why not?
I'm trying to come up with a good argument to persuade you. That's the worst part of this.
Is The Great Gatsby about Nick Carraway?
Okay. I'm not going to answer.
Is he there?
Yes, he's there.
Okay. Problem is, this book's not about Paul. Who it's about isn't there for half the time. And Paul's there the whole time. And a lot of times, there's not even anyone else that Paul is talking to. Very little dialogue in this piece. Very little dialogue. And
yes.
It's all bad.
I don't think it's all bad.
We'll get to that in the writer's workshop.
Dialogue-wise, though, I think that's a point, because it's trying to bring Lorelei. Do you say Lorelei or Lorelei? I mean, since we're Babel, Lorelei. Okay. Lorelei. Because Powell. Lexi. Because Paul is trying to get Lorelei to speak, I think the dialogue has to suffer a little bit. There has to be that empty space where there is no answer. How do you write a grieving character without a sense of just despair?
That is not the... Okay, first off, the sense of despair is pervasive, and that's what makes this melodrama.
Okay.
When we understand that the only true love of a man's life has died, we're there. We don't need to be told, oh, woe is me, as we are repeatedly in this novel. The first 4 chapters are nothing but that. The first 4 chapters, we learn the same thing. Lexi has died. She was the love of my life. I'm going to try to get the dog to talk. For 4 chapters. For 4 chapters, that's all we get. That's all that happens. That's all that is said or communicated.
So, as a pop-lit piece, what makes this so popular?
People love tripe. Twilight was popular. 50 Shades of Grey was huge. Okay? That's what makes this popular.
There is something within this that connects with people. That it plays on that emotional appeal. People connect with Paul.
For me, this communicates greatly the power within finishing a piece. You simply finish a piece, and if there's an audience for it, someone will find something in it.
But it's not just someone. I mean, this is a national bestseller. This is huge.
What does it take to be a bestseller? I don't know.
That's what I'm getting at. There is something within this that, and maybe it didn't click with you, and maybe it isn't the best writing, but from a reader's standpoint, there is something that makes this an enjoyable read.
For someone, I'm sure. I don't know why you gave this to me. I don't know why you put me through it. Literally, my notes for this are just complaining for pages at a time. My notes are melodramatic. That's how melodramatic the book is. Again, maybe it's just a nostalgia that I have with this piece. That this is, I hate to say it, this is one of the first books that I actively sought out and wanted to read. And I think if you look at this as a performance piece, there's a lot more to it. There really is. It cut out all the dialogue, the parts. Right. But when you're saying make this a performance piece, what you're saying is take the ideas behind it and nothing else.
So there is something there, though. That's what I'm getting at. There is something that makes this appealing.
There is an essence that is Dogs of Babel.
Thank you.
There is an idea that was Rome.
That's
what we're going for here.
I mean, I'm trying to get you to agree with something.
Burning behind us. We're considering the fact that there were gladiators inside it.
At one point, yes.
So let's move on to criticism.
Okay.
What type of criticism do you think this sets up for?
I don't have any, sir.
No. Like, not critiquing.
Oh, you don't want me to critique it?
No. Like academic criticism.
I don't have any, sir.
Really?
Lay something on me.
This doesn't reek of feminist criticism, do you?
Oh, it does. I actually, just a side note here, I had to write all my notes as just overwhelmingly positive because I knew getting into this how you were going to react to everything. But yes, Lexi as a feminist character. Paul as a feminine character.
Right. This is one of the times where, let me take you back to my education. I didn't understand what feminist criticism really meant until I read Jane Austen in college. Because I had not read Jane Austen before that. And there were all of these criticisms of writing, oh, well, this was obviously written by a man, this was obviously written by a man. Obviously, being a man, I didn't really get it, right? I didn't have an example to go to. Reading Jane Austen, I looked at the stories, at the characters, at the dialogue, and everything that was happening and said, wow, written by a woman, right?
Yeah.
And I had read women up to that point, but I was never so glaringly hit in the face with it to understand it. This is that glaring. There is not a masculine in this entire novel.
Okay. And obviously this is written by a woman, Carolyn Parkhurst. So I mean, that could be a valid argument. Absolutely. I think, that a lot of that bleeds into Paul.
Oh, I've got this on page 59. I haven't mentioned sleeping arrangements yet. I haven't told you how we slept in the same tiny motel room for 4 humid Florida nights, and how it wasn't until our last night there that Lexi crossed the room and came into my bed. How she whispered to me, I don't usually do this on the first date, as she ran her hands over my long forsaken body. I mentioned these things, the warm air and the cool sheets, the fresh joy of Lexi lying beside me, in the interest not of skipping over anything that might prove to be important, but in truth, they are not things I can speak of very easily. I touched her and it felt like coming home. What more is there to say? That's written by a woman. That is written by a woman.
Okay.
There feels like nothing masculine in there.
And I think it's very interesting that this novel, when sold in bookstores, is almost without question sold as a mystery novel.
Yeah.
And I disagree with that completely. And this might fall into the category of fiction, because it is hard to establish, but this has a lot of the popular romance themes.
Right. Well, the thing that gets me there is I will credit Parkhurst here. This does not read like genre writing.
Yes.
It reads like literature as it is written. Unfortunately, a lot of times they have to have some place to put that.
Yes.
And when you're not Junot Diaz, when you're not George Saunders,
and when these are flying off the shelves like hotcakes and it's getting that bestseller title, you have to put it somewhere.
you have to put it somewhere.
And that is the bane of popular literature, I think. A lot of novels fall victim to that.
Well, and it's the same thing with young adult novels. A lot of them aren't written as young adult novels. They're written as novels.
Yes, but they're picked up by the young adult audience.
They feature a young character, or the themes are about this or that or the other, and they get shoved on that shelf.
And not to, flood into the young adult genre in the middle of this, but you haven't read any John Green yet, have you?
No.
No John Green. I'm going to drag you down that path as well. This may be Dogs of Babel 2.0, but I think with John Green, I'm not sure if they were written to be for young adults or written as just a regular novel. But yes, they are almost entirely picked up by young adults. But they've become so popular that adults are starting to read them with the movies coming out and just all the hype. And it still rings true for different age groups, which is incredible to think of as a novel.
Right.
So would this be different for you at a different age, possibly? Or would this be different for you if you read it as a woman? Is that a fair argument?
If I read it, what do you mean?
If you were a woman, would this change this?
If I was a woman, or if I read it as a woman?
If you were reading, let's say Adrian is a woman.
Okay.
A beautiful woman at that.
Because if I read it as a woman, I mean, I could get dressed right now if you want.
No, Adrian is a woman, and he's reading the Dogs of Babel. And he's reading just Paul pining over his lost wife. Does that change things for you, the emotional appeal?
Maybe. I don't know. I can't make that statement.
I don't think it's fair that we could make that statement.
Okay, so let's move on.
Oh, let's move on then.
How did you feel about the rape scene?
I think it pushes, I hate to say it, the feminine appeal of Lexi, the poor victim to this, the victimized woman.
Right, but she was the one that raped.
Yes.
And then she plays the victim card.
Yes.
So, for me, that was confusing. Not to say that you can't put things like that in a novel. I think that's where literature lies. Mm-hmm. But, wow. Man, just wow.
Yeah, I think that is, it's Carolyn Parkhurst right there, though. Just that is holding up her feminist card right there.
That you get to rape, and that's not a feminist card.
I'm saying that's the feminist card.
No. Because that's not fair. That may be that was the feminism that we were exposed to in college card.
No, that is that. Yes, that's
is that card.
Can we throw Dworkin or Steinem in here?
Right. Don't put Steinem next to Dworkin.
Oh, we always put Steinem next to Dworkin.
Don't put Steinem next to Dworkin.
I actually love Steinem, but we'll just.
Here's the thing. When you rape and claim the victim card, immediately after performing the act of rape, you no longer get to be on the good side.
No.
Right?
And that's the thing. Lexi is still billed as this likable character. Flawed, yes. Dark, yes. Brooding, whatever. But Paul is still in love with her, even after all of this. It's hard to take her and just basically flip in a paragraph what you're supposed to think of her.
Right. And that's part of the problem I have with the revelation at the end that she was pregnant, because it is a revelation to the reader, not to the narrator.
Yes.
The narrator knew all along and was just withholding this information, which is a trash tactic. That is a trash tactic.
Okay.
So these two things that make it complex is that A, she killed herself 2 months pregnant?
I think so.
2-3 months pregnant?
Early, like very early in her
2
pregnancy.
2 months pregnant, and she raped someone, and then tried to claim the victim card for it. And these things don't make her a likable character. And again, the question of killing yourself while 2 months pregnant, I'm not sure why I have a more visceral reaction to that than simply abortion, but I do.
Yeah.
Right? And I can't, if we're going to go into feelings and touchy-feely.
Which this is this novel.
Right, that's the point where it loses me. And I don't know why, right? I can't justify it, but that seems different to me. This is a despicable character.
It is.
Just despicable. And not to say that you can't have that level of despicable and still be trying to argue for it in a novel. That is what literature is for. To press these things to your face and say, look at it, man.
Yeah.
People are still in love with people like this.
And maybe that's what we're pushing at here. That despite how horrible of a person Lexi actually is, Paul is still just head over heels in love with her. And maybe that makes Paul the ultimate victim of this novel.
Well, I think he was set up to be the victim the whole time. Because Parkhurst even seems sentient of the fact that Lexi's crazy.
Yes.
Right? I mean, she's not accidentally crazy in the novel. That's purposeful.
Yes. And I think it's not just a recent string of just what this is. Easily, I'd say, heavy mental illness that she's been dealing with for a long time, evident of the tattoos on her head. This is something that she's been dealing with and battling with for a long time. So, can we blame her? Is that is there a little bit of redemption to her character, knowing that she's the victim?
Of what parts of her character?
I'm not sure.
The rape?
No,
Okay.
Not redemption of that, but maybe she's not such a horrible person because this is a mental illness she's dealing with.
Right.
Are you following that at all there?
I don't think you get to make that argument. I'm not sure. I mean, I've dated tons of Lexis. And the thing with it is, they're always aware of what they're doing. Right? You've dated a Lexi or two.
Yes, but
they always know what they're doing.
That's putting yourself in the position of saying that I know what this mental illness is like, and she's doing it just to do it. So, I'm on the fence. I agree she's a despicable character, but I think there's still a little hint of sympathy towards her. And I think overall, Lorelai is my favorite character.
Because she's the only one without bad dialogue. I can agree with that.
Well, way to ruin everything. Turns out there's no dialogue from the dog.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Spoilers.
Maybe as a dog owner, that hurt me. Towards the end when she gets captured and they do the surgery on her. That's just harsh.
Which, there are many parts of this, the pacing for this novel is wonky at best. Because there are certain things that are just crammed in, and then they're supposed to be big deals, like Tian Lin, what is it?
Tam Lin.
Tam Lin.
Yes.
That's supposed to be big to us. The books at the end,
yes,
where the secret is.
Yes, the mystery of the novel.
What?
I brought you a gift. Let me reach into my bag to reference why this was popular.
Put that away.
I brought this for you. This is, as we've discussed before, the unobtainable mystery.
Put that away.
Somewhere, Paul just clicked.
Dalton, put that away.
For no reason, for no logic, Paul just clicked. And because of that, we solved the mystery.
Which isn't even a mystery.
It isn't.
That was...
I think, in concept, it was a good touch. It was just handled completely wrong.
It maybe could have been a good touch.
It could have been.
I don't think that you can say it was a good touch. I literally threw this novel at that point. Literally threw the novel at that point.
But it would be me turning around to look at the book selection we have up here and just, Adrian, A Midsummer's Night's Dream, thank you.
Right.
How romantic.
How melancholy the genius art
It's
is.
the unobtainable mystery.
Right.
There is no sense to it whatsoever, but it is such an apparent theme in popular literature right now. With the popular mystery, it's the stroke of genius, the brilliance of the character that he has solved this mystery that isn't a mystery.
Right.
There's nothing to it.
So, hit the subscribe button to see Dalton and I hate each other.
Let us know what you thought about the Dogs of Babel so I can finally shut Adrian down on it.
Babel.
Babel. Give us a follow on Twitter @StripCover.
Like the video below and tell us what we should read next. And maybe destroy if it comes from Dalton.